Today we are talking about hybrid mana in Commander and the proposed change that Wizards of the Coast has put forward in their latest weekly MTG livestream. Let's do this. At the moment, the current rule is that for a hybrid card to go in your Commander deck, all of the colour pips have to match your Commander's colour identity. The proposed change is that you only need one of these colours to match. I'm assuming here that it's per pip. I'm going to try and stay focused on two colour hybrid cards for the most part, because the proposed change that they're talking about, but we know they are in discussion about with the Commander format panel, as mentioned by Rachel Weeks and Josh Lee Kwai on the Command Zone podcast, the idea isn't fully fleshed out. It's just a concept at the moment, that's something that Wizards of the Coast is currently working on. For example, Leyline of the Guildpact and Ginny Fey. My assumption here is that they would both be playable in mono green, but Ginny Fey wouldn't be playable in mono red or white due to the fact that she has a solid green pip in her casting cost. However, Leyline of the Guildpact would be playable in mono green and any other 4-colour combination, but only 2 and 3 colour combinations that use green as one of their colours. Ulalek would remain as a 5-colour card, but also become colourless at the same time, same as the Reaper King, which essentially means they could go in any deck. Cards with mana symbols in their text box would be locked to their original colour identity rules that we use today, such as Deathrite Shaman or the Guild Mages like Izzet Guildmage. A card like Fuss and Bother, which has multiple hybrid pips, would be recognised as a mono white card, a Boros card, and also a Zorius card. Hybrid transform cards like Stump Stomp and Legion Leadership would be either colour on the hybrid side, but would still be both colours on the rear. So I'm assuming that means they would still be played in the same way we do today. Other transform cards like Ajani's Pariah, I want to say will remain the same as a Boros colour identity, as it doesn't have any hybrid mana symbols, but time will only tell how all-encompassing they go with this potential ruling update. Lastly, companions. They would essentially become mono-coloured partners if you obey the build restrictions. With all of that said, does this actually change or break the game in any way? Well, it does affect a couple of the rules regarding colour identity, but no doubt they would be corrected and errated to balance things out for Commander. But on the other side, it creates also weird interactions when you're trying to teach new people the game. Not something that they can't learn or understand, just as they do with current Magic. It's just things that might not seem intuitive. For example, if you are told you're a mono black deck and you can run any card with black, you put an Ashiok Dreamrender in your mono black deck, but then somebody blows it up with a red elemental blast or a null elemental blast because it's a blue permanent or a multicolored permanent. You might be sat there scratching your head, but I'm a mono black deck. Something that is not truly intuitive to a new player, but something that 100% could be taught. Protection from X colour or Y colour will now come into play a little bit more if we have more multicoloured creatures running around monocoloured decks or just in decks in general, which is something that catches even veteran players off guard sometimes. A card like Clout of the Dominus would grant both effects in any deck that was using red or blue if it enchanted a blue and red hybrid creature. So for instance, could be cast on a red and blue creature within a Simic deck, even though it's a Izzet card. I said I was going to focus on 2-colour hybrid costs in this video, but we do need to look at what happens when we expand this out to 3 and 4 colours and so on and so forth. If we take a now mono white Boros card, such as a Waves of Aggression, we could slide it into an Azorius deck or a Bant deck, or maybe even a Sans red deck. We have now given that colour combination access to effect normally outside of its wheelhouse. This means what looks like a 2-colour, 3-colour or 4-colour deck now might actually look more like a 5-colour deck over time, especially as we get more hybrid cards. This effect only starts to expand out from here. That's just a few examples that I found from the hybrid card pool that I looked at. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there a lot smarter than me pointing out more weird rules, interactions, and ways that these cards could break colour pies and things like that within the game. I know one card a lot of people have spoke about online is Manamorphose. And yeah, it would be cool to play in other decks, because green is really struggling for more ramp, and red definitely needs more rituals, doesn't it? So does this actually really matter? Is it really worth all this discussion online right now? And yes, it does, because what seems like a small change today is vastly different 10 years down the line. I do agree in giving Wizards of the Coast design team this change does dramatically open up the design space for hybrid cards. And while I'm sure they will create some absolutely beautiful designs that will push the envelope of what is possible within Magic, and it will also help them better fit more IPs from Universes Beyond into the 5-colour system that we have, I do also believe that restrictions build creativity. And if we get to the point where we can put almost any card in almost any deck, we're going to dramatically increase the amount of staples that we see within certain archetypes or colorways, further increasing the homogenized building of commander decks across the entire format. Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Command Tower, even all the MDFCs, and potentially soon we would then be adding even more hybrid cards to that list as well. Because of all this, for me, this seems like another path towards the stereotypical 5-colour good stuff decks, which doesn't really sound like an interesting meta that I want to be a part of. Colour identity in Commander is part of its origins. If we are saying Sol Ring and Rhystic Study are part of Commander's identity, then I would say the colour identity rule is more a part of Commander's soul than any individual card could ever be. People build decks around their favourite commanders or their favourite mechanic, loads of different themes, kindred, stuff like that, even their own personalities. And that's all done within the confines of the current colour identity and commander rules. If we then go and upheave that and change it, some people will be able to slide in a little bit of flavour here and there, but it also just feels a little disingenuous to that whole deck building process if we can start to slide in an X colour spell into a Y colour deck just because it's best in slots, which just further homogenizing the whole process. Deck building isn't easy, it's a skill that people hone and craft over time. And I want to make this game and the deck building process as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. Hence why I do a content channel all about helping people build commander decks. I also want people, though, to reach those understandings and hit those milestones and those level up moments that I talk about themselves. We can't give players that experience if they can just start to get to the point where they throw any card in any deck. Now, it's easy to say with the current hybrid card pool that nothing is really going to break or change dramatically, nothing that can't be fixed. But what does it look like in 5 years, in 10 years? This simple rules change today will have big effects further down the line. What happens when we get a hybrid costed VV running rampant, not only in multicolored decks, but also in monocolored decks and even off-colored decks? Yes, players do have the freedom to play that card in more decks, and it expands the scope of what we can do with that card, but that also opens up for even more design mistakes. With over 30,000 cards and thousands of cards coming every year, something will inevitably go wrong, potentially very wrong. And let's face it, no one was really looking at Shuko until Nadu came on the scene. I know we can't hold back from change due to fear alone, but also we don't want to blindly just walk off a cliff. For many people out there, Magic the Gathering, not just Commander, is in a delicate spot right now, and at the end of October, a big competitor is about to hit the scene. Now, my question to Wizards is, do we really want to be messing with the underlying principles of how this format is played that's propping up an entire company? Hybrid Mana is absolutely fine in 1v1 Constructed, as it's a competitive format and what the game was originally designed around. Commander is a first casual social experience designed to break away from those competitive games. The judges at the time played it to get away from the competitive structure of games. Players weren't, and still really aren't, thriving to put the best in slot cards in all of our decks and maximise a sideboard and analyse the meta to outplay our opponents. This seems like a small change today, but I believe this will have massive game-changing consequences down the line, and we need to be very careful where we tread. I know this change might be fine, but I can't help but feel that this is our Walking Dead moment. It's the start of something bigger that's about to change and become a very different beast in a few years' time. And that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, But what I do think we all should be doing is having good constructive talks about all of this on both sides of the argument. So if you agree with me, drop it down in the comments below. If you disagree, please explain why down below. Explain why you feel it will be okay and it's not as dramatic or oversighted as I think it is. Open and honest discussion is the best way to give Wizards of the Coast feedback so they know how the general player base is feeling about this change. Otherwise, they'll just do what they want. Anyway, next week I'll be back to deck techs. I had to stop to do this because this, I believe, is potentially a big turning point in Magic's history and I wanted to voice my opinion. But yeah, Avatar comes out soon. Avatar deck techs are starting from next week. Stick around for those. We've got spoiler season starting as well. Get out of here.